This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. Good evening. Several new developments tonight on the assault gun front. Colt Industries has announced it will stop selling its own made-in-the-USA semi-automatic AR-15 assault weapon to the gun-buying public. Colt did so amid growing public pressure and complaints that such weapons give drug traffickers and others bent on violence the tools of mass death. President Bush's new anti-drug director, William Bennett, applauded Colt's action. President Bush did not, his aides saying that he sees no need to extend yesterday's temporary suspension on imports of foreign semi-automatic assault weapons to cover the domestic versions. The domestic versions are the major source of supply. CBS News White House correspondent Leslie Stahl begins our coverage of the firefight over assault weapons by the lobbies and in the streets. Leslie?
Dan, there's obviously pressure on President Bush to broaden his temporary ban on those foreign-made AK-47s and Uzis to include all the semi-automatic assault weapons made in the USA, but today he refused to do that.
But at this point, we are not willing to expand that in any direction. Right now, it makes sense to stop the importation, and we'll see what our analysis of the problem yields.
Unfortunately, this ban that the president has announced is window dressing on an enormously serious problem. It is not going to result in limiting access by criminals to assault weapons in the United States.
Why not? A case in point, the Street Sweeper, a 12-shot semi-automatic shotgun made in Rhodesia for crowd control. Its importation was banned in 1986, and almost immediately and in full compliance with the law, a company in Georgia began making the same gun, which is still for sale today.
What we're going to see as a result of this politically driven decision is probably an increase, a significant increase in the manufacture of domestic assault weapons over the next several months.
To impose restrictions on the sale or manufacture of these guns, the president would have to support legislation, gun control legislation, and that would mean flip-flopping on positions he took in the campaign.
You see, I'm a sportsman, I'm a hunter, like to do it, have every year, unbroken record, and I don't believe we need the federal government going forward with gun control legislation.
Opponents of gun control, so battered by public outrage over these weapons, have been careful not to condemn the president's action, but have made it clear they want him to go no further.
But it's the criminal we ought to be focusing on and not the particular type of firearm. The next homicidal maniac will be using a pump-action shotgun and buckshot, and we'll be talking about whether we should ban pump-action shotguns.
What now? The administration will take 90 days to determine whether these imported semi-automatics are suitable for sports purposes. If they're not, the import ban will become permanent, and the pressure on President Bush to help ban these weapons across the board will intensify. Dan?
Thank you, Leslie. For some answers to basic questions about these rapid-fire assault weapons, what they are and why there is so much concern about them, we went to some experts at the Federal Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. With the cooperation of the Jersey City, New Jersey Police Department firing range people, they gave us a direct demonstration of the killing power of these military-style weapons. Sir Green, what do we have here? In brief, what is an AK-47 assault weapon?
This is a military rifle manufactured in China, imported into the United States. It holds a military round, .223 round. It's extremely accurate.
It's semi-automatic, not automatic. Why is it such a problem?
With this banana clip holding 30 rounds, an individual can fire this 30 rounds as fast as he can pull his trigger.
All right, so you have a police officer over there, and he has 9 shots at most.
That's correct.
You have the bad guy with this AK-47. He has 30 rounds as fast as he can fire them.
21 rounds extra. So as the police officer unloads to reload, this individual still has 21 shots left.
What is this?
This is a 9mm Uzi rifle.
Both of these, the AK-47 and the Uzi, both semi-automatic.
Correct.
Can they be converted to fully automatic?
Yes, they can. Those that have the knowledge and would like to spend the time converting these firearms, they can be converted to fire fully automatic.
Fully automatic means you just pull the trigger back and it keeps on firing.
Pull the trigger once and however many rounds are in your clip will be fired.
Semi-automatic means you simply have to pull the trigger each time you want to fire.
That's correct.
This is a 1/4 inch steel plate.
That's correct.
So the 9mm handgun that the police officer would carry hits this and bounces off at 7 to 12 yards.
Correct.
The AK-47 goes right through this at 60 yards.
Yes, sir.
We use the term assault weapon so easily. That comes from military terminology, which means the weapon is designed for people to jump out of airplanes, hit the ground, start fighting. This kind of weapon is used in hunting in this country.
I don't know if anybody personally would hunt with an Uzi. It's not designed or really configured for hunting.
Charlie Thompson and Joe Green of the Federal Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. Actions and reactions increasingly indicate that President Bush, the gun lobby, and gun manufacturers have come to believe they underestimated public and police anger over these assault weapons. In rushing out the limited ban on foreign imports only, President Bush acted just after California had done much more. Correspondent John Blackstone reports tonight from California and the cutting edge for and against controlling rapid-fire heavy weapons.
We're losing the fight as far as firepower goes. We're not equipped as well as the bad guys are.
In California, the campaign to control assault weapons has moved so far, so fast, that even those who have argued for change are surprised.
Surprised isn't the word. I'm shocked, pleasantly so.
But still, California does not yet have a law banning the weapons. The state assembly has passed one version, the Senate another.
Rational public policy this morning by banning assault weapons.
It will be next month after more negotiations and lobbying before anything goes to the governor. And gun owners are organizing new opposition.
We're going to go after them and get them out of office and get some people who really represent our position.
But the politics of gun control has now moved beyond California.
California is saying to the rest of the country, yes, we need protection in terms of we need to respect the right to bear arms, but the problem has gotten so great, the problem of drugs and crime, that now we need to take action.
The city of Los Angeles has already acted, banning the possession and sale of assault weapons. But the new law did not stop the gang members who shot up a restaurant early this morning. Law-abiding gun owners insist they are the only ones being affected. These target shooters would be outlaws in the city, and they worry that if one type of gun is banned, others will follow. Much of the pressure for change in California has come from the state's police chiefs, who say they are losing the urban arms race.
If there are some hunters who are a little bit weird, we have to balance their rights against the rights of the rest of us to be safe.
The police know that a new law will not make assault weapons disappear. What has been proven in California is that on this issue, the powerful gun lobby is vulnerable. John Blackstone, CBS News, Los Angeles.
And then there's the fresh fruit and produce problem. From growers and exporters to the president of Chile's state bank, Chileans reacted with anger today to the United States government's ban on fruit from Chile. The U.S. acted after officials found 2 Chilean grapes laced with tiny amounts of cyanide Sunday. That followed poisoning threats telephoned earlier in the month to the U.S. Embassy in Santiago. Just 2 grapes, but as correspondent Susan Spencer reports, lots of problems.
While the FDA continued analyzing fruit, ships like the Bungo Reefer languished offshore, denied permission to unload $3 million worth of fruit from Chile. And all because of these 2 grapes.
This is a terroristic act. It could have happened with any product line in any part of the country.
The repercussions continue, with Japan stopping distribution of Chilean fruit after it was learned that the Japanese got a threatening phone call the same day the first call came to the U.S. Embassy. In Chile, tons of fruit are piling up on the docks. All packing activity has been suspended. Some people already have lost jobs, and the government says 200,000 more jobs are in jeopardy.
Like a war. I think for Chile that is like a war. Hundreds of millions of dollars losses.
The Chileans have presented Washington with proposals to send FDA inspectors to Chile, to strengthen their own security, to cooperate in any way to ensure safety. But the U.S. still would have a huge problem. What to do about the millions of dollars worth of fruit already here.
We need to just look at this and try to develop a plan. It's not possible at this time to say exactly when it'll be implemented.
We do not want to sell anything that the FDA can't tell us is safe. We simply would like them to move as rapidly as they can to determine safety.
The industry's biggest worry is that in the interest of safety, the FDA could decide that all or some of the fruit from Chile now in storage has to be destroyed. The agency is discouraging such talk. It also says that no final decision on any of this is expected until at least Friday. Susan Spencer, CBS News, Washington.
And straight ahead on your CBS Evening News. Ray Brady on cars and why this might be a good time to buy one. And Frank Courier on guns and why so many Americans are buying them.
Find our new house. Bringing out the very best in you.
From Crayola bunnies to colorful gifts and cards, Hallmark has hundreds of ways to make sure any home is filled with Easter.
Hallmark has a way to make somebody's day. When you care enough to send the very best.
Attention shredded wheat eaters, you've been missing something. Taste. But no more. Kellogg's Squares brings you that superlative shredded wheat nutrition with no salt, no fat, no cholesterol. But wait, Kellogg's Squares gives you free in every bite. Taste. Sweet, delectable fruit in the middle. You might never eat plain old shredded wheat again. Kellogg's Squares. Shredded wheat with taste. Free in every bite. And speaking of taste, now Squares have 35% more raisin. Great taste. Free.
Ready?
In a minute, honey.
It's nice to be noticed for what you wear and how you look. And if you wear dentures, it's nice to know Efferdent freshens up dentures and cleans away stains so well. With Efferdent, all they'll notice is you.
See the colors of Puerto Rico, colors everywhere. Puerto Rico, the shining star.
President Bush today sent Congress his version of a bill to deal with one of the quality of life issues that came up frequently in the presidential campaign, child care in America. President Bush is proposing tax breaks for low-income parents. Some Democrats in Congress see this as weak and too little too late. They back a different plan. CBS News White House correspondent Wyatt Andrews reports on the politics and economics of daycare.
The president's child care plan would give tax credits to all low-income families with children and would even grant cash rebates to families who don't make enough to pay taxes. Under a complex formula, families with income under $13,000 per year would be eligible for a tax credit of up to $1,000 for every child under 4. The program would expand for the next 5 years, with families making under $20,000 eligible by 1994. Families would get this tax credit whether they sent children to organized daycare, to relatives, or to no daycare at all. A plan which President Bush argues gives the greatest choice to families most in need.
Our belief is that parents can decide best on how their children can be taken care of. And you can't be wedded to this idea that somehow there has to be a child care institution to join or belong to.
But the White House plan faces competition in Congress, where the Senate today voted its own child care bill out of committee. The Senate plan would give cash benefits to low-income families, but only in cases where children actually go to licensed and regulated child care programs. Critics call the president's plan a giveaway program that would not help create new daycare.
Those people could turn around and spend the $20 a week on anything. You could go out and spend it on beer if you wanted to. So the likelihood that you're going to achieve anything meaningful in the area of child care with this proposal, I think, is dreaming.
It doesn't do anything about parents' frustrations as they search for decent child care. A hoax? I guess you could call it a hoax.
Because the Senate plan already has 41 sponsors, the White House has signaled a willingness to compromise. The good news for working parents is that both sides predict some child care bill this year. Wyatt Andrews, CBS News, the White House.
An annual government health report today found overall life expectancy in this country continuing to rise, although it declined among Americans who happen to be black. The 13th annual report from the Public Health Service found heart disease remained the nation's leading cause of death in 1986. Homicides rose 8% from 1985 to 86, more rapidly than any other leading cause of death, while fatal motor accidents and suicides also increased. Well, while the Space Shuttle astronauts trained their cameras down on lightning storms and other Earth features below, NASA troubleshooters today apparently solved the mystery of the fluctuating fuel cell high up. A sticky valve is now unstuck. The shuttle electrical system is powered back up to normal, and it looks like Shuttle Discovery will be able to stay up for the full 5-day mission ending Saturday.
give me Paris wrapped up in ribbons. But he was young and poor. So we settled for a small cafe and coffee. Coffee so rich, I thought I'd never taste its like again.
Discover the pleasure of rich French roast, new from Maxwell House. Rich French roast coffee. We can't give you France, but we'll give you the flavor.
Check again.
We interrupt this transaction for a reminder.
So what's your approach?
There's one travel tip it pays to remember.
We've got one good option.
Choosing the card that actually pays you cash. Cash back for every charge. The Discover card.
Daddy loves you too.
Nice job, everybody. It pays to Discover, the card that pays you back.
Shredded wheat?
I need my nutrition.
You'll need 12 boxes to equal the vitamin and mineral nutrition in just one box of Total. That's more nutrition than any other cereal.
That's more like it. One box, one bowl, one spoon.
Throw away the gloves and breathe easy with No Fumes Easy Off Oven Cleaner. No gloves, no irritation. No Fumes Easy Off is heat activated to dissolve grease easily.
Make it easy on yourself.
With No Fumes Easy Off.
The government today reported that the U.S. trade deficit in January narrowed by 13.7%, down to about $9.5 billion for the month. Only yesterday, the Commerce Department reported that a sharp slowdown at auto sales rooms contributed to a retail sales decline. And today's narrowing of some of the trade gap reflected a drop in demand for imported autos. Demand for domestic cars is also down. CBS News business correspondent Ray Brady looked at the reasons for this declining auto sale.
For the makers of foreign cars, the problem starts at the U.S. shoreline. Imports are piling up on docks and in dealer lots across the nation. Unsold, unwanted.
We see it as an oversupply situation created both by the manufacturer supplying and building too many automobiles, and there being too few customers to purchase them right now.
Showrooms are clogged with many bestsellers of the past. Doing worst of all, European nameplates like Audi and Volkswagen.
Automobiles that have inspired dreams.
Even once high-flying Mercedes is having trouble. Sales are slowing for the Japanese as well. Mazda, Nissan, Toyota, Honda. 2.5 million unsold domestic and foreign cars now clog the market. More keep coming.
We're the world's largest and most lucrative car market, and every automaker in the world has set his sights on this country.
Some dealers blame the slowdown on rising interest rates and the big jump in foreign car prices. But this just may be the inevitable slowdown after 5 incredible years when Americans bought 75 million cars and trucks.
A lot of them aren't paid for yet. People are still paying down the cars they bought 2, 3, and 4 years ago. And the market is kind of glutted, saturated right now.
That includes American cars. So in Framingham, Massachusetts, GM is closing this plant, leaving workers disgruntled.
You know, you're just giving the economy to the Japanese people. It's just a constant rollover. Your money's going out of the country.
Not necessarily. Already, the Japanese operate 8 auto plants here in the U.S., with 5 more scheduled to open, bringing even more cars onto the market for dealers to try and sell.
We're in a buyer's market, and we're going to be in a buyer's market for as many years as I would care to project, which would be 3, 4, or 5.
Dealers are doing what comes natural to automobile dealers. They're dealing.
Those deals could get even better. Starting this fall, the Japanese will begin bringing in a whole new wave of cars. Bigger, splashier cars with muscular V8 engines. Cars that could make the competition even tougher. Ray Brady, CBS News, New York.
With the federal income tax filing deadline only a month away, some less than reassuring word today about the folks at the Internal Revenue Service who get paid to answer taxpayer questions. The IRS now appears to have given Congress the wrong answer about how many wrong answers it's giving out. The IRS says its mistake rate is 31%, but congressional investigators said today they're playing lowball. They say it's really 40%.
reach for a better-tasting Raisin Bran.
Reach for the stripes, come on, reach for the stripes and get the best taste, Raisin Nut Bran.
Today, people are reaching past Kellogg's and Post for the best-tasting Raisin Bran. Raisin Nut Bran has juicy raisins rolled in crushed almonds and big, crispier flakes.
Reach for the stripes, come on, reach for the stripes and get the best taste, Raisin Nut Bran.
Reach for America's best-tasting Raisin Bran.
1988. It was a very Regal year, with the Buick Regal nameplate outselling every other midsize coupe in America, including Thunderbird, Cougar, and LeBaron GTC. Why was Regal such a smashing success? I guess you could say that we Americans know a good thing when we drive it. Buick Regal, the best-selling midsize coupe in 1988.
The great American road belongs to Buick.
You've always trusted Woolite to care for your sweaters. Wouldn't you love to get that same Woolite care for your rugs and for your chairs? Well, try Woolite Deep Cleaning Rug Cleaner and Woolite Upholstery Cleaner. Trust Woolite Care for rugs and chairs.
Not this much, not this much, just this much. New Advanced Formula Kaopectate works fast to relieve diarrhea and cramps, and it tastes better, too. New Advanced Formula Kaopectate, more than ever, the diarrhea specialist.
The Soviet-backed government of Afghanistan said today its forces turned back new rebel attacks against the provincial city of Jalalabad. U.S.-backed rebels have mounted a major offensive, trying to take the city as a political base for their opposition regime. Our combat correspondent Alan Pizzi is covering the siege.
The sound of an Afghan government MiG on a high-level bombing run sends Mujahideen forces heading for cover. The airstrikes are getting more accurate, according to eyewitnesses, and are helping to bog down the 10-day-old Mujahideen push against Jalalabad. The bombers dropped flares for protection against Stinger missiles, but the well-armed Mujahideen claim to have shot down a number of MiGs. The ground war is mainly rockets and artillery, including guns captured from the Afghan army. There is no shortage of weaponry on the Mujahideen side, and the resupply line from Pakistan is under their control. But the Mujahideen may have pushed on Jalalabad before they were ready, and casualties have been high.
Comparing a conventional force with unconventional force, I think we are doing pretty well, because we don't have much experience in such warfare.
That the Mujahideen are unconventional is evident at every turn. Improvisation is the key to everything here. A coating of oil and a lot of dust adds up to camouflage. Crude field hospitals a few miles from the front work non-stop, and there is a steady stream of ambulances taking the seriously wounded to hospitals in Pakistan. They have to push their way past refugees fleeing the battle area, some even driving their livestock ahead of them. The Mujahideen now control several huge state farms around Jalalabad, which produced much of the food for the capital, Kabul. It took the Mujahideen 2 months of heavy fighting to reach the point where they could lay real siege to Jalalabad. It now looks like it could take just as long before they can get much further. Alan Pizzi, CBS News, near Jalalabad.
In Hungary today, tens of thousands of people turned out for street demonstrations calling for freedom, democracy, and the withdrawal of Soviet troops. It was a new holiday decreed by the reform and survival-minded communist government, commemorating a 19th century revolt against Austria. It was also the biggest display of nationalist feeling since the Soviet military crushed a Hungarian revolt in 1956.
Oh, my sinuses.
Sinus headaches are worse in the morning.
Gotta be sharp today.
During the night, pain and pressure build up. That's why you need maximum strength Sinead. Sinead is so strong, it handles even morning sinus headaches, but it won't make you drowsy.
All set to go?
Yep, up and running. Good morning, this is your AM DJ.
Maximum strength Sinead, strong enough for even morning sinus headaches.
The sea. At Sea Ray, we build boats for the sea. So whether you're taking a pounding off Montauk or just running Lake Minnetonka, it's nice to know the performance, quality, and style Sea Ray is famous for goes into every one of the over 40 models we build. The world's quality boat builder for 30 years. Sea Ray, one of the companies of Brunswick Corporation, sharing the heritage of being #1.
How fast does Anbesol relieve toothache pain? Before you can say.
Imbecile.
Denture pain? Before you can say.
Anbesol.
Anbesol stops minor mouth pain on contact. Anbesol and maximum strength Anbesol.
For Post Natural Bran Flakes, John Newcomb on getting the best out of life.
Staying on top requires a good serve, strong approach, and a great put away.
Reach for the best tasting high fiber bran flake. Post Bran Flakes at their best.
The fascination, fear, and love and hate of the gun is deeply rooted in the American experience, deeply rooted in our history, emotion, and law. Correspondent Frank Courier looks tonight at Americans and guns and changing times.
In Houston, the so-called Cabbage Patch Commandos were out squeezing off hundreds of rounds over lunch hour today. Typical American gun lovers who oppose the federal import ban on assault weapons.
I like to shoot. I just like the freedom to be able to pick whatever gun I like.
There's no way of getting them off the streets. That's just like drugs. They're there.
Weapons of war have no place in hunting or in sports, and they should be banned.
This controversy over automatic weapons, some say, could signal the beginning of the end of America's love affair with guns.
I think this love affair that existed is really now being countered by a hate affair as well, as we see the destruction that guns cause.
Just as the Hollywood myth and mystique over six-shooters gave way to menacing machine guns, Bonnie and Clyde.
No, ma'am, I'm completely sold out of AK-47s. I don't have a one left.
Reality is intruding on romance for American sportsmen and gun collectors, whose love affair with fast firepower has sparked a buying spree this week in gun shops nationwide.
People in Texas still remember the Alamo. They still go to visit it. You understand, guns have always played an important role in Texas's history.
And in Florida, where Pompano Beach collector Bennett Greenberg has spent a lifetime accumulating weapons, including an arsenal of assault rifles.
We've been blaming the gun for far too long. It's not the gun, it's not the bullet, it's the person pulling the trigger.
No one really believes the ban will solve the problem. At least 20 manufacturers in the U.S. will help meet the huge and growing appetite for semi-automatics.
It's just a rush. It's hard to explain until you ever shoot one.
No, sir, we have no Uzis.
As shop owners sell out and gun lovers stock up, the debate has left as many people worrying about an all-out ban as those wondering if America's romance with firepower is really worth the price. Frank Courier, CBS News, New York.
Coverage of the important gun issue will continue tomorrow on CBS This Morning, on CBS Radio, tomorrow evening on the CBS Evening News, and then tomorrow night we hope you'll join us for a special live edition of 48 Hours, an up-to-the-minute report on assault weapons in America. That's 48 Hours, Armed and Deadly, tomorrow night at 8, 7 Central Time. For now, that's tonight's CBS Evening News. Dan Rather, see you tomorrow. Good night.
This is CBS.
I'm Steve Smith, on the road in Cairo.